It is me. I am Shank Aaron, and you are tuned into the very first episode of the Shank Aaron Podcast. This is Guestlisted with Shank Aaron. Since this is the first episode, I just wanted to give a little, background onto why we're doing this. I was having dinner with a good friend, bass musician Jenga. A lot of you are probably familiar with, and we were kind of swapping stories over dinner of, a lot of crazy things that have happened to us throughout our lives in bass music, things that a lot of other people probably would have never encountered because they were kind of behind the scenes and whatnot. And he was so enamored by some of my stories, he suggested that I should put them together into a podcast. And I've kind of wanted to find a way to interact with people, especially during this pandemic, since I haven't been able to be out and about as much as I used to. And so I thought this would be a perfect way to do it. So without further ado, this is going to be episode 1 of the Shank Aaron Podcast. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to my sponsors. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, how did you get sponsors already? Considering it's only your first episode. Well, I'm kind of a big deal here in the dubstep universe. So my first sponsor is Qdoba. Qdoba, you should eat at Qdoba. Fuck Chipotle. Anyways, on to the first story. Tonight's episode is going to be focused around my very first time attending the Electric Daisy Carnival. Now, a lot of you guys probably have been in the past, and it's not that unique or exciting for you, but I had never gone before, and the whole circumstance of my trip ended up being a complete and utter clusterfuck. So I'm going to share that story with you now. The way it started was, let's bring it back. A long time ago, me and my friend Dirt Monkey had a radio show on an internet radio station called Baseline Road. A few of you guys probably remember it, but most of you wouldn't because it was a very long time ago. On that radio show, we didn't really do much music. We kind of just talked a lot of shit, and it was super fun. But one of the ongoing jokes in that show that we had was that we would announce any shows that we would have coming up, and at the end of the announcements, we would always add, and then also EDC Antarctica or EDC the moon, just made up EDCs that we were going to, because in our minds, nothing like that was ever going to happen for us. So the fact that we would throw it in there was just a total joke until it actually started happening. And the first year that this happened, Dirt Monkey, Patrick, as he will be referred to for the rest of the episode, he got booked for EDC Las Vegas. So the thing that had once been a big joke was now actually coming true. And since the time that he got booked coincided with us finishing up a song that some of you guys might be familiar with, it's called Leviathan. When we wrote that song, we finished it a few weeks before he was going to play at EDC Vegas. So when we were hanging out wrapping that up, he actually suggested, like, hey, if you could make it out to Vegas, I'll have you come up on stage with me and we'll play that song together. And then you'll get like a little, get some photos and stuff of you on a giant stage at EDC playing one of your original songs. So obviously, huge dream come true for Patrick to get to play in general. And then, a huge thing for me too, to just even get to play one song with him during his set. So of course I was like, I'll see if I can make things work. And we went from there. Now as we get to the part where everything starts to go crazy. So I had mentioned that I was on the fence about going to EDC Vegas to a close friend of mine in the electronic music scene. And he had suggested, since he was such a prolific gambler, that he could get free hotel rooms anywhere in Vegas for whenever he wanted, because he was such a badass. And so I started to see things coming together. I was like, if I buy a flight, I'll have a free room. I'll get to go to EDC Vegas for free. Like, this could be a fun little weekend. So I thought. So we made the arrangements. He booked me the room. He was going to be staying in a different hotel in a different room with a bunch of crazy party kids. And I just was going to go hang out, eat some food, and go do this EDC Vegas thing with Patrick was the original plan. So where it first starts to go wrong is we get to Vegas, and I'm very skeptical that I'm just going to get to walk in and receive a free room at, I can't remember the name. I want to say it was the Wynn. It was one of the nicer hotels in Vegas, but I always feel like anytime things are too good to be true, they usually are. So walked in, was able to get my room key, went up to my room, started to get settled in, and just realized, like, wow, this is actually going to happen. Like, got a free room. It's pretty cheap to get down here. I'm going to get to go to EDC for free with, see a bunch of people I know. It's going to be great. So the first folly is I get a phone call from the friend who got me the room, and he says, I got bad news. Apparently, in Vegas, you're only allowed to get one comped room per weekend. And so when they comped his second room for him and his girlfriend and a bunch of his friends, when he had booked my room, it had canceled his room for all of his friends. Now, he was trying to go full balls to the wall EDC style. He had, a bunch of people playing and crashing on the floor. They were going to, just turn it up to 11, whereas I was trying to turn it up to like a 3.5. So now we're already there, and he's like, so we're all coming over to your room. We're all staying in your room this weekend. And I was like, okay, kind of knew this was going to be too good to be true, but it'll be fine. We don't really spend much time in the rooms anyway. So he rolls up with just the party crew. They're just blasting music. I could hear them down the hallway. They're singing along to these different like house songs that were really big, and they were already getting after it super hard. And I was like, whatever, it's going to be cool. I'll just sleep on the floor or something, be out of the way. No big deal. Now, in a stroke of genius, my friend said, well, since it's so hard to get back and forth from EDC to the hotels, we should just rent a car. And he's like, I'm probably going to be sober for most of the nights, so I'll just drive, and we can all chip in on this car. That way we don't have to like try to fight over Ubers or worry about these shuttles or anything like that, which I thought was an excellent idea. Now, I say that because that's going to become relevant later on in the story. So we go to EDC. The girls are getting ready. They're putting on all their sparkly stuff, and took me a long time to pick out the proper black hoodie to go with my black jeans. And then we all hop in the car, ready to go. Everyone is pre-gaming. They are super pumped. But for me, shows are a little bit different. I enjoy them for a different reason. I really do go to shows to listen to the music. I like to see friends I haven't seen. There's a lot of other artists that I only get to see at certain shows. So it'll be, 6 months in between seeing them. So I'm always excited to hang out with them, talk, chill, do all that. I really, really like to eat festival food, especially soft pretzels. So I was excited for that as well. But it was a little bit different from everybody else. Anyways, because I only had a +1 ticket, it wasn't like an artist pass, I still had to go in through the same entrance with everybody else, get the same security checks and all that. So we're waiting in line, and the excitement is palpable. Everyone's like, excited to party. And most of us had never gone before, so we didn't really know what to expect. So we get up to the gate, we're getting searched, all that. I walk in, no big deal, but then I see that they've kind of fallen behind. And so I go up to ask them hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, there's some problem with the tickets. Just go on in and we'll meet you in there. I'll text you in a minute. Now, if you've ever been to EDC, you know why that last sentence is hilarious. There is no cell reception there. There's just way too many people. There's not any towers. So like cell phones are basically useless. So I walk in expecting to catch up with my friends later. Little do I know, that was the last I'd ever see of them. So I'm walking in. It's just crazy overwhelming. It's, all the stages are huge. The sound is huge. Like everything is just awesome. But I'm just wandering around by myself being like, realizing now that my phone's not working. I'm like, well, I'll go around, look at some music, check out some stages and see if I run into anybody I know. Little side story. I won't mention the person who it was, but I ran into another artist friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a long time. And he was frantically trying to find his girlfriend. He's like, my girlfriend went to the porta potty and then I never saw her again and I'm freaking out because I'm on mushrooms and can you just help me find her? And so I was like, yeah, well, where were the porta potties? And he's like, oh, they're like right over there. I was like, well, let's start over there. And so we're like wandering around through this crowd and everyone's recognizing him and he's freaking out because he's tripping balls. And so we go to the porta potties, find his girlfriend, and then they just both like vanish into thin air. And I was like, okay. While I was talking to him, I probably should have asked where the artist area was and see if I could link up with the people I know. But eventually I was able to make my way, find some more people I knew, and then, walked backstage and got to see all my friends and, begin to hang out. One of the things about this experience is that for me, going to EDC was like a whole thing. For Patrick, he was only going for his show. He was in the middle of a tour, so he had to show up, play, and then just go right back to the airport. He wasn't going to be there for the rest of the thing. So I had to kind of hang out backstage, wait for him, which he eventually came. And then we started doing typical EDC things. We had to do the stereotypical get on a golf cart and like drive around the racetrack and do like the full tour, which was awesome. We're taking videos, taking photos. He goes and signs autographs for a while. It's like everything's starting to come together. I was like, okay, Patrick's here. We're gonna get through this. This is gonna be great. So we start talking about his set, and he's like, okay, I'm probably going to play Leviathan like 3 or 4 songs into the set. I was like, okay. And he's like, I'll make sure to tell the stage people that you're going to be coming on so there's no issues. And then he like introduced me to some of the people there, and I was like, hey, I'm Tom. And they're like, okay, cool. You're going to get to go up and play your song. So we had it all planned out, and then I was chilling on the side of the stage with like some of his managers and photographers and videographers and stuff. And so we're all just drinking, having a great time. Now I'll make an important note. I don't remember why our drink of choice was a case of Modelo's. I think we were just trying to take it kind of easy and just like sip on some beers and like have a good time. But that's what we were drinking, and that's going to be important later on in the story. So Patrick gets up. My heart's like racing for him. I'm so excited that he's finally going to get this, like, get to play on this massive stage in front of all these people. And he goes and starts playing, and the crowd is going absolutely bonkers. I think that because his music that year was so unique, the sound compared to like a lot of the other stuff that was going on that weekend, that people were really, really pumped to have like that sort of contrast in bass music at the time. So they were just going crazy. So I'm starting to slam down these Modelo's, having a great time. Everyone is just in a great mood. Gets about 3 or 4 songs in. I'm listening really closely because I need to hear that intro of that song to know to, run out on stage. And like, he's going to do a little announcement and whatnot. And, about 20 minutes goes by, nothing. He's just going through the normal Dirt Monkey set. I was like, that's fine. Sometimes you're looking at the crowd, you're feeling something different. He's going to fit it in later. It's not a big deal. So keep on slamming down beers, trying to calm my nerves a little bit, keep on listening real intently. I had people coming up to me trying to have like really intense drug-fueled conversations with me, and I was just staring straight ahead, and I was like, please don't distract me. I'm intently listening to hear the intro of my song. So 40 minutes goes by out of like an hour set, still no Leviathan, but I was like, as a massive dubstep artist myself, I understand how these things go. Maybe he won't even get to play it. That happens. I would never hold that against him. Just because, sometimes it just doesn't fit. You're on a different, you're on a different path. You're riding the crowd. Now we're about like 50, 55 minutes in. And this feeling starts creeping up on me that I have about 7 or 8 Modelo's inside of me that badly wants to leave. But the whole time I wanted to stay right in my spot so that I was ready to go to run up on stage. So I start putting down the can and be like, all right, well, I shouldn't drink any more because it's just going to make me need to pee even worse. But I started doing the I gotta pee dance, like the shuffle. And even one of his photographers was like making fun of me. He's like, bro, you gotta pee? There's like porta potties right over there. I was like, I know, but like he hasn't played the song yet. And then we both were joking. He's like, I don't know, man, 55 minutes in, I don't think he's gonna play it at this point. And so it gets to the point where like I am sweating. I am like about to piss my pants and I can't take it anymore. So I run across this back parking lot that's behind the stage to the artist porta potties. And like the whole time I'm like running backwards, still looking at the stage. I'm like, if it plays, I am ready to halt this mission and, go back to the stage. But didn't hear it. Went to the porta potty, locked the door, just started unleashing the most intense piss that this porta potty has ever seen in its poor plastic life. Just the full rush of a case of Modelo's passing through me at high velocity. And it was so loud in there, I could just faintly hear the intro to Leviathan starting to play. And so I panicked. And if you're a guy listening to this, or a girl, I don't know how it is for girls, but it's like impossible to stop a piss midstream, like a really big one, which, was also the case for me in this porta potty. And so I basically just got as much out as I possibly could and then just started piecing out. And I think I had to still put away my junk as I was exiting the porta potty, pulling up my pants, piss coming down my leg, just full on sprint back to the stage because I did not want to miss possibly my one moment to be on a stage at EDC. Now, as I'm running there, it's already dropping. People are loving it. I'm always like, yeah, sweet, it's going to happen. And I start running through the parking lot. I get up to the stairs that lead up to the stage. I'm running up there, but it was so late into the set, the security people had left to go usher in the next artist and get his whole crew situated. So they weren't even there to let me on the stage. And by the time I got to the top of the stairs anyway, Patrick had already started mixing in his next song. And it was already on its way. I'd totally missed it. So now I get to say, at least for the time being, that the one chance that I had to play an original song at Electric Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas, I spent pissing Modelo in a porta potty behind the stage. And so that has been one of my great disappointments in life so far. But I try to think of it in a positive manner. I haven't been to Electric Daisy Carnival since. I did have a great time while I was there, but it's not really something I'd like to attend as a fan. I'd rather go as an artist, obviously. So I made a rule to myself that night that the next time I came back to EDC, it would be for my own set. And that way I wouldn't miss it by being in the bathroom. So that was my great folly of that weekend, but it wasn't the last total failure. So after the set, everyone's congratulating Patrick on, doing an awesome job. He signed some autographs, take some pictures, and then he's back to the airport to go back and meet up with his tour. Whereas I was going back to the artist area to hang out with some friends. My current manager was there with a bunch of his artists at the time. So we were all hanging out, and it's getting towards the end of the night. His set was fairly late, but it goes until I think 6 a.m. So it's about 5 a.m, And I was like, my ride is gone. I never got to contact my friend about how I was going to be able to get home. And since I didn't have any reception, I was like, I won't be able to just call an Uber or just make my own arrangements. I don't really know anyone else here. So I'm asking all the artists, like, oh, how's everyone getting back to the hotels? And everyone says they have these really, really strict artist shuttles that you get a special band to get on. And that's how we all got here. No one had their own car or had a ride back. So I was starting to think, like, this could probably be an issue. So I start to talk to people, and but before it's, too late, I'm like, all right, I got to figure out a way to get back to this hotel. And I start talking to people, and everyone's like, I don't know, man, they're being really strict. Like, I'll see if we can find an extra wristband for you, but, you might be out of luck on this one. And so when it was time for my manager to leave, he's like, just come with us. I'm sure we can explain it, and they'll let you on if we're all cool with it. So I, stand in the line for the artist shuttles with them. And when the shuttle comes up, they even explain, like, hey, this is our friend. He got separated and ran into some problems tonight, but he needs a ride back with us, and we're all okay with that. And the lady's just like, absolutely not. And they're like, no, it's cool. He's with us. He's got a, backstage access. He just doesn't have a shuttle band. And they're like, no shuttle band, no shuttle, like no exceptions whatsoever. And then like some people were like, man, that's crazy, whatever. And I was like, you guys don't like get in trouble. Like, it's fine. I'll figure out something else out. And so before they get on the shuttle, I look at my manager and I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do about this. And he's like, you're a resourceful guy. I'm sure you'll figure something out. And in my head, I took that as, you'll figure something out no matter what. And I went into like full on, I don't give a shit survival mode. So I'll give you guys a second right now to think about how you would have gotten out of this predicament. And then we'll explain how completely different the way I did it was. So full panic had set in. I was kind of in like a fight or flight mode. My brain was racing, like, I am not going to get stuck here with a bunch of fucked up people that I don't know at EDC Vegas. Like, I need to get back to these hotels. And so this was my plan. I waited until their shuttle left, and then a few other shuttles had come and picked up their people until the line had kind of calmed down and it wasn't a very big deal. And when the last shuttle left, I walked over to the bushes and hid inside the bushes by the shuttle line. I then waited for a shuttle to drive up. I waited for the driver to get out, walk over to start checking in the people. While they were doing that, I snuck around the back of the van, got inside the last row, and laid on the floor and hid as they loaded up the shuttle. Now, my plan was, as long as I can be quiet enough that no one notices that I'm in the van, by the time they're out of the gates, there's no way they're going to turn around and bring me back. They're just going to be pissed that I did that, and then we'll still get to go back to the hotels. That was my thought. So as they started to load up the van, it was only like 3 or 4 people. I was like, oh, thank God. It's only like a few people. Like, I can just hide. We started to drive away, and I was like, okay, what I'll do is I'll just slowly sit up and pretend like I was sleeping in the back or on my phone. And then no one will even notice that I've been there the whole time. They'll probably just be real tired and drunk anyway and be like, oh, there's some random dude. He's probably someone's tour manager or photographer or something. So I waited until we were about 10 minutes into the drive back to the hotels, and I just slowly sat up in the seat, had my phone out, was pretending to text somebody, and just being as quiet as I could, trying not to make any sort of, any startling movements, since the shuttle was overall pretty quiet. No one was really talking. As I sat up, the dude in front of me just goes, "Holy shit, there's someone back here." And I am like, fuck. Like, they're going to fucking throw me out in the desert, like, of this van. Like, this is going to be a thing. Like, they're going to be pissed off about it. And I was like, this was a bad idea now that I'm thinking about it. And I was like, oh, I just nodded off. I was so late. I was so very tired. And the guy was like, oh man, did you play tonight? And I was like, well, it's a funny story. I was supposed to play tonight. And he's like, oh, did your set get pushed around? I was like, well, let's just go with that. So we started shooting the shit. I calmed everybody down. I just started talking to this dude like I was supposed to be there, which I obviously wasn't. It turns out, because he was saying, he's like, oh, which stage did you play on? And I was telling him about the stage that we were supposed to be on, or I was supposed to be on. And then he was like, I was on the circuit ground stage, which is like one of the biggest stages that's there. And I was like, I don't recognize this dude. So he must not play dubstep. I'm assuming he's like a house or trance or somebody. But we started shooting the shit and he's like, oh, what are you doing afterwards? Like, we should go get a drink or something like that. And I was like, maybe. I just wanted to get off the van and be back in, cell reception and whatnot. He finally introduced himself to me. He said his name was DJ MK. Pretty sure it was MK. I did look it up later and found out that he is a massive house DJ who I've actually seen come to Denver quite a few times since then. And I've really wanted to go up to him and been like, hey, do you remember that time I snuck onto your van to get out of EDC Vegas? But I never did. But he was the nicest guy ever. Really cool. Didn't mind that I was really not supposed to be on there. And he didn't alert the driver or anything. And so we went back to his hotel and he's like, oh, where are you getting off? And I was like, oh, right here. I was just happy to be off this shuttle. So I got off at his hotel. And that's the thing. I was like, oh, good. I'm only like 3 hotels away from my hotel. And I'll just walk over there. I totally forgot that in Vegas, there's like literally no sidewalks in between hotels. Like they just don't want you to walk anywhere. But I tried to anyway. And I ended up like walking through like a fake palm tree swamp puddle thing. I don't know. It was fucked up. I got my shoes wet. It was a whole thing. When I got back to the hotel, everyone had been literally just gambling and partying the entire night since they didn't get into EDC. And they all cheered when I walked in. And they're like, hey, man, you made it. We were wondering how you were going to get home. And I was like, oh. And they were all house people, too. So when I told them I snuck onto MK's shuttle, they were freaking out that I'd even met him. But anyways, then my adventure was over. I had successfully gotten back to cell phone reception and my hotel. And then I got to go get on my flight and go back to Denver. So that was my crazy Electric Daisy Carnival story. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to have a few more stories coming up very soon. I've already started planning some stuff out. I've already started planning out some guests that are going to come on with me to tell some crazy stories. But I really hope that you subscribe to this podcast and stay tuned for the new episodes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.